Hey, true believers, Englentine here with another top 10 comic books sold to readers. This one's a little bit interesting. This is the first time I've ever done this where DC has decided not to show up to the fight. Yep, no DC Comics this week. And still they managed to make it to a countdown or two. And that is pretty interesting. After we count down the hard copies, we're going to go on over to Comixology and see who wins the digital week. Is it DC, Marvel, or Independence? Yes, I managed to slip this particular part in as well. Now, these are the stores that took place in the countdowns from Bleeding Cool, so take it with a grain of salt. And if you're in their area, please stop by, say hi, maybe buy something. And don't forget, support your own local comic book shop. Now, without further ado, let's get this party started. At number 10, we have Bone Parish, number 5. Number 9 brings us Mars Attacks, number 3. Number 8 is Doomsday Clock, number 8. At number 7, we have GoBots, number 2. Number 6 is IDW's Marvel Avengers, number 1. At number 5, we have Die, 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 number 6. Uncanny X-Men, number 7, makes it to number 4. X-Force, number 1, is number 3. In the runners-up spot at number 2, we have Superior Spider-Man, number 1. Leaving the number 1 spot open for the Fantastic Four, number 5. Good to see that some independents are on the list, even if it meant that DC had to take a break. Let's see, we had Bone Parish, Mars Attacks, GoBots, and Die, Die, Die representing the independent. Oh, no, and Marvel Avengers. So they had 5 in the countdown. DC had 1, and Marvel had 4. That means Marvel can't win even when DC Comics takes a break. They should have owned this. But no, only 4 of the comic books that they put out, 4 of the 5 comic books made it into the top 10. That tells you how many people really don't care about Cloak and Dagger. A dubious win at best, but the independents win this round. Because yes, I'm not counting Marvel Avengers as a Marvel one. That's an IDW comic book. That's an independent comic book. Done. Argue with me in the comments if you want, but it's IDW, not Marvel. Independents win this round. Let's talk about what the comic book shops have to say about this week. Weird week at FFF, as there were only about 10 new books that actually came out due to the holidays hitting so close to New Comic Book Day. Fantastic Four was both the most expensive and the best-selling single issue of the week. Superior Spider-Man was our second best-selling book, which isn't a surprise as he's a fan-favorite character with a solid creative team. GoBots sold less copies than Amazing Spider-Man number 12 and Captain America number 6, both on their second week, and the same amount of copies as The Walking Dead number 186, a book on its 4th week. An odd week for sure. I gotta admit, I didn't know that there was a GoBots comic. I honestly didn't. Now, GoBots to me has always been the Kmart version of Transformers, but what you gonna do? For the youngins out there, Kmart was kind of like Sears. For the youngins out there, Sears was a big department store, someplace you would go like Amazon. Yeah, there you go. It's kind of sad, though, that these independent comic books aren't selling as well as weeks-old comic books, though. Come on, pick up an independent, people. This week is less of a top 10 list and more like a 10 out of 11 books that sold more than 1 copy. The only book that didn't meet this criteria was, unsurprisingly, Cullen Bunn's Bone Parish. Fantastic Four easily led sales with a wedding issue in which there was an actual wedding, and the X-Men weren't far behind with the weekly Uncanny and a new X-Force launch that seems to be piquing curiosity at the least. That would be my advice, that you would have as less curiosity piqued about X-Force number 1 as possible. It is so bad. The list looks a little unusual this week thanks to the very small slate of releases as is common for the final week of the year. We've got some titles placing on the list that normally wouldn't see it, and even some titles from previous weeks. Fantastic Four number 5 was the overall bestseller, bolstered by a big event issue, being a big event, whatever, you can see it right there. In an otherwise extremely quiet week. Just behind it was the most recent weekly installment of Uncanny X-Men. All ages licensed Marvel comic Marvel Action Avengers managed to place on the list along with the Champions Annual, and despite no new DC single issues releasing this week, last week's Catwoman number 6 showed up on the list. Imagine that. Having a wedding when your comic book says, hey, there's going to be a wedding, gets people excited and they actually like it. Who knew that could ever happen? I'm talking about Batman 50 and the X-Men wedding special. Don't let them know we're talking about them behind their back. Having Wednesday be the day after Christmas is a bad day to have it. That doesn't make sense. Having Wednesday be the day after Christmas is a bad day to have it. Okay, I understand he's talking about New Comic Book Day, but he says it's Wednesday. Like, okay, we should call somebody and have Wednesday canceled. Just doesn't make sense. Normally we see much more buying the day after Christmas, but with a lot of people going back to work and such a small selection of new comics, it was the worst Wednesday sales day of the year. As for the titles that did come out, a lot of people were not that excited. Another wedding? Why does X-Force have such bad art? Were the questions being asked. Hopefully next week starts 2019 out with a bang. I admit, I asked the same thing about X-Force's art. It is horrible. It's zombie X-Force, man. That's all I'm saying. If you look at it, it's zombie X-Force. It's a horrible book. Really bad book. Just, God, awful book. A week without a single DC book in the top 10 because DC decided not to ship any standard comics this week for reasons that still make no sense to me. Nevertheless, the DC decision helped boost Marvel sales on FF, Superior Spider-Man, X-Force, and Uncanny X-Men, and it assured pretty much every other title place on our top 10 slots. The surprise title on the list was Sit Comics' Blue Baron #1. The publisher wisely shipped us copies to have on sale this week, and it proved to be a successful plan since the book broke into our store's top 10. Well, you go, you independent comic book publisher, you. Otherwise, yeah, it's all standard stuff. DC didn't show. This made for a weird countdown as well. I actually had people go, well, I guess you're not doing one of these this week. Yes, I am. I knew what I was going to do. I'm just going to count up the 20. Let's see who wins. And by the 20, I mean Comixology. Now that we've done the hard copies, now that we've gone through all of what the stores have to say, we're going to go over to Comixology, the world's largest digital comic book shop, and see who wins the digital week. Does DC pull out a win? Is it going to be Marvel? They definitely have 5 in the barrel there to shoot out at us. I don't know what that analogy was. Or will independents finally have their day? Let's check this out. At number 10, we have Spider-Geddon number 5. Justice League number 14 makes it to number 9. At number 8, we have Miles Morales, Spider-Man number 1. Star Wars Darth Vader number 25 makes it to number 7. Hellboy and the BPRD 1956 number 2 is at number 6. At number 5, we have Die 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 number 6. At number 4 is X-Force number 1. At number 3, we have Superior Spider-Man number 1. Uncanny X-Men number 7 makes it to number 2. And just like in the hard copies, Fantastic Four number 5 makes it to number 1. Unlike the hard copies, however, Marvel handily won. They had 7, 1 DC, 2 independent, so Marvel is definitely winning so far, not to mention the top 4 spots. It's their week. I mean, obviously, it's a dubious win at best because nobody else is around. That being said, Cloak and Dagger was number 102. That's how far back I had to go to make this top 20. They had a big graphic novel sale, and some back issues were on sale. I did not count the sale issues. Nothing for less than cover price made it into this countdown. And the rest of the countdown, the top 10, the whole 9 yards, was made with only those books that were being sold for full price, because I didn't want to make anything, put anything at a disadvantage. And once again, Cloak and Dagger doesn't show up into the countdown until 102. At number 11 is Aquaman number 43. It's now 2-7. X-Men Extermination is at number 12. It's now 8-2, Marvel's favor. Die number 1 makes it to number 13. It is 8 to 2 to 3, still Marvel's favor. While going by the numbering on Comixology, Cloak and Dagger number 1 here was at number 102. On this countdown, however, they're 14. It's now 9 to 2 to 3, still Marvel's favor. At number 15 is Uncanny X-Men number 6. It's now 10 to 2 to 3. Independents are beating DC even. Marvel has just made it so they've won. Nobody can tie them even because of the battle between Independents and DC. At number 16, we have The Wicked and the Divine on this big race to see who makes it to second place. Independents have 4. DC is still stuck at 2. At number 17, we have Doomsday Clock number 8 showing up for DC. It's DC 3, Independents 4, and of course, Marvel 10. Amazing Spider-Man shows up at number 18, adding another notch on Marvel's belt. They now have 11. At number 19 is Batman Damned, number 2. It is now Marvel 11, Independents 4, DC Comics 4. And at number 20, Marvel has Infinity Wars number 6, so it's a final tally. Get this, 12 for Marvel, 4 for Independents, 4 for DC Comics. It's a tie between the DC couldn't even pull out second place. Wow, that hurts. As a DC fan, that hurts. But I'm actually kind of glad Independents did show up so well. Granted, it's because DC backed off, but still, it's pretty cool to see. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I told you I could do a countdown this week. And there you go. That's what we have. I hope you enjoyed it, guys. Seriously. I had a blast reading this off and finding out who was going to win the whole 9 yards. I knew that Marvel was going to win because they just had the most new books out this week from the big 2. But I really was curious who was going to be second, DC or Independents. And it was fun to see. But what did you think? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you like this video, you want to see more, click like, click share. If you haven't done it already, hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell because that is what YouTube really takes seriously. And if you haven't done it already, go on over to Patreon and help us keep making videos for you. Drop $1 in the till or wait for Ko-Fi. And we're going to have an account up there pretty quick as well. I'd like to thank everybody who's already done that, and to everyone, all of the true believers, thank you very, very much for watching.